Hello, hello. I am here for another creative chat, and today I have Keri with me. And Keri is a mindset coach for creatives. She has been my mindset coach for 2 years, I think. And it's been amazing working with her. And I wanted to introduce you all to her and talk about mindset for creatives because, that's what it's going
It's
to
a
be
big
all
deal.
about today. So, hi,
That's
Keri.
awesome. Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat. This is
I
something so near and dear to my heart because I think us creatives have a lot of things to look at.
No, I'm so happy that you're here, and I was so happy that you wanted to be here. Um, and
Of
I
course.
think it's such a good and important topic. Like you said, it's something that we don't always take enough thought around, but it's something we should be taking more into account when we're thinking about our creative businesses.
Totally. Yeah. So I'll just give you a little insight for me. I started my own photography business 15 years ago on just like a women of prayer. My son was a newborn and I didn't want to miss any of my moments with him. And so I have my master's in education. I didn't want to go back to be a teacher. I just wanted to be with my son. And so I started a photography business. I didn't even know you could do that as a professional living. And I just was 100% self-taught, both in the craft and in the business. And so it didn't take long before there were a lot of like learning in the trenches, figure out the hard way. But I started to create success for myself, and my degree's in psychology. So I've always been fascinated by the way humans work, how we think, what that translates to in our life. So there's always been that thread. But it wasn't until I really started looking at it through the lens of my business, no pun intended. But that's when I really started to notice the stories that I was telling myself, the things that I was thinking about. I didn't know what mindset really was. I just knew that there was a correlation between how I felt and how my business was. So over the years, I started really being intentional about that. I don't know, maybe 12 years ago or so, I came across The Secret, which was like my gateway into like, I knew there was something more, like I knew there was something else happening. And so I just started playing with like both the psychology and the brain-based stuff and also the energetics of things and universal principles. And once I started playing with the two, I realized like success is actually predictable. But the secret ingredient in that is uniquely us. Our creative work is the fuel to create that success. The problem is we are conditioned with so many outside influences of what a creative looks like, right? So I don't know about you, but I heard all the time like this starving artist syndrome. Like if you're going to be a creative, you can't really make money. And it's like the pain of the experience makes you creative. Like there were just so many stories that I was like, wait, I don't really think that's it. Like the more happy I am, the better I do. The more, connected I am, the more success I create. And I just started getting curious. And so then I discovered like what mindset really is and how thought work and managing my thoughts and being intentional with my thoughts, that played a part. And so about 4 years into my photography business, I had people basically just saying like, how did you start your business? How did you become successful? Like I was in like I'm in the Boston area in Massachusetts. So I had won a bunch of awards. I was the best of Boston, family photographer. I like had all these things that I was like, I don't know, I'm just like doing what I do. Like that's, and so then I just went down the rabbit hole of like all the books, all the trainings, all the things. And I just started sharing with other people like the way that I create success in my business is repeatable when you'd make it your own, right? So that was sort of like the start to everything. And then ultimately there came a time where I needed to draw a line in the sand because I was doing both photography and mentoring, and it became too much for me. And so I decided to mostly retire my photography business and just focus on helping other creative entrepreneurs, leaders, service-based people, and help them create their own version of success, which to me is always through mindset.
love that. And I think That's a really important part. Like that success always comes through mindset. And I think I've been in business for a long time, but I don't think I realized that for years. Like that the mindset part of it was so important. I thought, we'll just do the work, we'll just do the marketing and the admin stuff and like all the pieces
tactical things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. The tactical things, the things that you are kind of taught, or at least you can learn that there's these different pieces. But it didn't make sense until I started to know more about the mindset things. And I think that was like 4 years ago that I started to learn more about this whole, you need to have the right mindset to be able to have success and to run your, like, grow your business and grow it in a sustainable way. Because I think that's important too. There's a gazillion ways you can grow your business, but a lot of them will just implode. And I think
and lead to burnout, right? And not only that, it will rob you of your creativity.
Yes.
Right. And so what I hear you saying is something I see with my clients all the time, is that like we can learn all the actions. And I often remind people, if I line up 100 people that are quote unquote successful, and I ask them how they became successful, whatever that is to you, right? The first place we really need to look at is like, how are we defining success? Right? We have this culture where like money and status and numbers, like that's the measure of success. But like, that's the place I start with everybody, is like, what is success to you? Success to me is being able to be present with my kids and my family and be able to travel and be able to, do whatever I want when I want to do it. It's not like I have $1 million in the bank and I can show you screenshots of my bank account. Like, that's not me. That's not my value, right? I mean, great, money is great and we need money. And I do a lot of money mindset stuff, especially for creatives. But I think the part in that is like, first we have to define what is success for us individually, because everybody actually has our own unique description of success and definition of success. And then secondly, it's really important to look at like, how do you create that in a way that's sustainable for you because you want to do it, right? I can line up 100 people and ask, how did you become successful? And I will get 100 different answers because it is uniquely designed for them, right? One person will say Facebook ads, one person will say Instagram, one person will say summits, one person will say, being in a gallery. Like, it doesn't matter how you get there. What matters is the stories you're telling yourself about what's possible for you. And that was really what opened up for me. I sort of reverse engineered how I created my success in my photography. And it was always about the psychology of like how we think and what we're thinking, and wealth consciousness, meaning our relationship with money, asking for money, charging for our creative work, looking at all those stories, right? Pricing things. There's so much with money. And then looking at universal principles of like how the world and energy work. And when we combine those three things, to me, that's how we create our own compass for success. And so without that, my experience has been with myself and with my clients is that we will burn ourselves out so fast just by doing the things, right? I can go Google how to market a business. Like, Google can tell me all the things of how to have a business, but it can't tell me the stories that I'm believing that keep me apart from what I actually want, right? So I think that's for me, like, I'm such a nerd for all that. And I'm such a nerd for language, and I also have ADD. And so I'm constantly like scanning and sifting and sorting and listening and hearing things and being like, oh, I can actually hear what you're saying under the thing that's giving you that result, right? Because it's never conscious. It's always programs that were installed, many years ago that we believe is a truth, like with a capital T, and it's not. It's just a belief. And it's important to look at those things if we really want our success in a creative business, in my opinion.
No, I think that's very true. And what you said about the money and you need to know what success is for you first. I think that's also where you can't decide on a number. Like, I know people will just say, I need 10,000 a month without any idea behind it. And then like either it's far too much money for them, and so they feel like it's too much and then they don't reach it, or depending on what they do and how much expenses they have and stuff, it might be too little, and then they
Totally.
reach it and they feel like, oh, I've reached it, and it doesn't work because it's not the right number, or it's taking them so much energy and doing things they don't actually love doing to get there, that it's the money they wanted, but it doesn't feel good getting there.
Yeah. And it's so important, right? It's like we need to look at how we're setting up our creative business to be sustainable in a way that feels good, because exactly what you said is so many times we have this like arbitrary number that we're like, oh, 10K months, that's the thing. And whether it's too little or too much, it doesn't even matter. It's more of, as soon as that number hits your bank account, you have about 5 minutes of happiness. And if you haven't done the work to really hold that and really maintain that as, you know, I like to say, make it neutral, then you're immediately in fear again, because it's like, well, what about next month? Well, where is it going to come from again? Like, what if I can't do it again? Right. So there's a lot of worthiness stuff we have to look at. We have to look at, like, what am I charging? And do I think it's possible to make that sustainable? Like, I am so much more interested in creating a simple business for a sustainable, adventurous life than I am to like hit the bright, shiny numbers or like external like examples of success or whatever, because it's so cliche, but there is so much truth in it. Is about the journey, like who we become and the experiences we have along the way. That's the magic. Like, that's success to me, right? It's like reinventing ourselves and looking at our identity and like, who do we define ourselves as? And all of that stuff, like, that's real freedom, right? And so when we're free, we don't have these constraints around money or what success looks like or how much to charge or whatever. In my opinion, it's like, well, then we can access our greatest creativity, right? Because from a brain-based perspective, when we're in stress, when we're anxious, when we're worried about things, we literally cut off the part of our brain that is creative. And if we run creative businesses, then I am the greatest asset. So taking care of ourselves is really important in my work. Taking care of ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, like all of it matters. And so I am so passionate about people defining what success looks like for them, creating a system that is simple and that they want to do, and create processes and becoming this new identity in a way that serves our creativity, not strips us of it, right? Because society will tell us all the ways we have to do all the things and get up at 5 a.m. and hustle till your eyes bleed. And, you know, like, I will take a stand for letting it be easy all the live long day. Like, it's just, I feel so strongly about it.
And I think it's so true. So when we met, I've talked about this on the channel before, I was going through quite some personal stuff, and I had to create I had two businesses. One was Digitalie and one was the crafting supply business, and I hadn't been feeling it for a while. And it was because I had not nurtured myself mentally, physically. There was so much stuff going on in my surroundings, taking up all of my energy, and there was no creativity left. And so there was also no creativity to pour in either of the businesses. So all the creativity that was there needed to go to my clients for Digitalie, because I needed to do that.
Because they're your clients.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to help my clients like I always do. So everything I had left, I had to pour into them. And so I had nothing left for like working on my business, only in the business, and nothing for the other business. There was just like, I think I was even below zero at some point, because it was just not happening. And I think by working with you, first of all, that like a lot of the things in my head shifted, but also now being in the camper and like having a completely different day, because like we talked a little before we went, we recorded, and I told her like my days are not routine. I don't have any routine yet, which is perfectly fine. But yes, I don't get up at 5. I hardly get up at 8. Like, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I feel like it's like just traveling and seeing all these different villages, and I saw so many very pretty purple, I don't know, there were trees with flowers and they were so pretty. Like all of that is nourishing me and therefore inspiring me and feeding my creativity. And I think
absolutely
that will help in the long run with all the creativity and all the things that I can do, because it's going to inspire me to make new things. Like I've been thinking like, oh, I could make that into something with a journal cover, or oh, I could like maybe use that somehow in making a new website. Like it's all of the input is giving me new ideas instead of having no inspiration and therefore kind of trying to work with an empty bucket.
Totally. And it's so funny because one of the things I often remind people of is we don't make money when we're sitting at the computer, especially as creatives, service-based people, leaders. That's not where we make money. We might send a proposal, we might send an invoice, but our money is made through living our life, right? And so one of my core beliefs is that my business strategy is living, and so is yours, right? It's like being out in the world and seeing things and experiencing things. I'm always sifting and sorting and thinking of how I can apply this to help my clients and grow their businesses and take this lesson or see how this client care went. Like I felt so, like celebrated when I went to this hotel, or I went, like whatever it is, I'm always doing that stuff. But if I'm sitting at my computer trying to create content, whatever that is, for 10 hours, that's not making me money. It's actually stealing creativity, right? Because now I'm resentful. Now I'm in fear. Now I feel like I'm missing things. Like, and trust me, I say this with 100% experience. I missed so many things in my life because I thought I was supposed to build my website and, like write the emails and do all the things. And I was missing my life, but I created this creative business, both photography and mentoring, to give me freedom. Yet now I felt trapped, right? So it was such an interesting thing to be like, I still, even though I know these things, I was still operating over other people's expectations of me. This is how you work. This is how many hours you are. This, or you're supposed to sit there. Like, it still takes effort every day for me to be like, oh, right. I have to detach from what other people think my workday should look like, even when I feel like I'm going to get judged for it, right?
Yes.
And as a creative, that's really important, because if we don't have that kind of outside world exploration, creativity, like just discovering things, it actually doesn't allow us to produce our best and highest work, in my opinion.
No,
I say that all the time, like, go out, like be in the world. That's the best thing you could do for your business, is live. That's your business strategy, in my opinion.
I like that. I like living is the best business strategy. We should make that into a tile.
Yeah. I say it every day, all day. Like that is the thing that I believe people need more of, because we're so boxed in of like what it's supposed to look like.
And I
Again,
agree.
Defining your success.
Exactly, because like you said, you can Google your marketing, and of course there's always things that are more personal to you, so it's like easier to get help with strategy and stuff. But the strategy has to work for you, and to be able to decide that, you need to know where your business success needs to be. Because if you I always say, if you hate doing video, then it doesn't make sense to say I must do video, because like you're going to show that you hate doing video, and it's going to not feel authentic because it's not you. And there's always ways to get around that and to learn, and it's always good to learn and grow, but it still has to be authentically you and fit with you. Like if I would suddenly start, I don't know, selling paintings, I don't think that would work, because
because you don't love it.
I don't love it. Like I don't love paint. I love like playing around, but I don't love making a whole painting that would actually be considered something you can buy. Totally. And it's not something that I would feel energized, like having to make them to be able to sell them. Well, for others, that's especially like their talent, and like they want to pour their heart into that, and it fits with them. And so I think you need the mindset and the where's your business goal going before you can do the strategy and saying, okay, this is where I do need to spend my time, and then considering kind of how much time you have and what you can do in that time, because you can come up with very, very elaborate plans that you would never be able to do on your own, and you would need a team of 10 to be able to. And there's
100%.
also options where you can do it in just a few hours a week. And it's I think that's it. Like, you need the business goals and what's your success before you can come up with the strategies and what you want to do and how you're going to do that.
Totally. I think you're 100% right. And I think the other thing in that is two things. One, that's what I often refer to, and you'll remember this from the money program we did, is rebelling against the shoulds, right? It's like all the things that say you should do it this way, they're just indicators to really ask yourself, like, but is that my way, right? Is there something I can take for this and adapt it into a way that I naturally want to show up, as opposed to this is the only way to be successful, right? It's like, you can see all the strategies, but if you're not naturally drawn to that, then it's going to be really difficult for you to show up. And so the other part of that is, this is why I believe mindset work is so important, is because if I have the belief I have to work on my business, quote unquote, whatever that means, for 10 hours a day, then I'm going to burn myself out. First of all, I'm not going to be taking care of the sort of core parts that I need as a human, right? And to access better creativity. But more importantly, I'm going to start thinking, I'm not good at this. It's not meant for me. It's not converting, right? And so if we're operating out of alignment for whatever strategy is good for us, it leads to burnout. It leads to self-doubt. It leads to feeling like we're failing. It feels like we're doing it wrong. And so having someone in your corner to remind you, like, that's just a thought error. That's just a thought you're having. It's not a truth. My core belief is it's all working. So if your strategy is, I only have, 2 hours a week to build my business as I'm a new mom, or I'm, traveling around and I don't know when I have Wi-Fi and I can post 2 times a week. Well, great. That's great. It's working. Like, that's your thing. But if you're judging yourself the whole time that it's only 2 hours and it's supposed to be 40 and it's not working and people don't see it, right? It's like, that's a thought, but it's not a truth. So how can you start to train your thoughts to be in service to you so that you can start to see evidence of that? And once you start to see evidence of that, then you start to see, like, oh, I actually have control over this. Oh, maybe there is a different option, right? So it's really asking yourself, like, what are the thoughts you're thinking and are they serving you? And how can you start to get behind the things that do serve you? So some people will say, like, you can't build a business in 2 hours a week. And it's like, okay, well, I'm sure I can find you evidence of that happening if you want it. But more importantly, like, how is that feeling for you to judge yourself every day that it's not working, right? You can't suffer your way to success. Trust me, I've tried. You can't struggle your way to success. Trust me, I've tried that too. Like, it comes back to that journey has to be enjoyable in order for you to stay the course, to be committed, right? It's like, again, you have to look at what are the shoulds, what are those sneaky beliefs that are running in the background, because most of us don't even notice. And if we don't have outside reflection of that, it's really hard to believe that there's another possibility. That's why I joke all the time. Like, my simple, like, what do you do is I joke with my clients that I'm basically just a possibility dealer. Like, I just want you to see things differently. I just want you to see, like, maybe there's an alternative here, because it opens up so much creativity and it opens up so much possibility. So I think it's important to consider.
As you were talking, I was thinking about two different things. First of all, if you do 2 hours of marketing or just any business work a week, that's still 2 hours more than not doing anything. So I think that's the whole, like, the first whole point. Like, we say, like, oh, we need to do this many hours, but sometimes then we talk ourselves out of doing anything, and doing anything is always better than doing nothing. And
Yep.
the other thing is I actually have a bit of an older blog post that's all about the energy that you put behind a marketing piece, because if your energy is wrong, then like if you feel like, oh, this needs to be the thing that's going to bring in 4 new clients, then it's not going to happen because you're putting it out for the wrong reasons, and it's energetically wrong. And I will link
Totally.
it in the description below, because and I will check it to
It's
see
so
if there's
important.
anything that's needs updating. But yes, it's so important that you like you have the right feelings and the right energy and the right vibe when you're making the marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, if that's 2 hours a week and you're doing that with the right feelings, and that's better than not doing it at all, or trying 40 hours to just feel crappy trying to sit there coming up with something to do that doesn't feel like you. I
Yes.
would have never, I always felt like YouTube would be a great thing for me, but I never felt ready. And it was like
Mm-hmm.
energetically, I wasn't there yet. Like I knew I wanted to
Yeah.
do it, but I just couldn't yet. And at some point last year, I was like, this is the time. And I I don't know how that happened, but it was like kind of like almost like a thunderbolt. Like it was, now I'm doing it. And I started it in like a month later. I had 4 videos and I could start, even though the
So
timing was
good.
terribly weird because I started as I was going on holiday for 3 weeks.
Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't
Exactly.
matter.
Like it just like that was the moment I thought, okay, now is the time. Now I feel like I can and I should, but then in a more from
In a
myself.
desire way, right? It's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and I think that that's really important to recognize. So 2 things that I was thinking, well, you said that is, it's the saying I come back to all the time is, it doesn't matter what you do or what you don't do. It matters the energy you're in when you do it, right? So if I'm asking you, like, for an example that's outside business, if I'm saying to you, how are you today? I can either say that in the energy of, how are you today? Like, I'm so excited to hear about your day. I want to know what happened. It's very present. Or I can say it in a very sarcastic way that's like, how are you today? Right? It doesn't matter what I do. It matters the energy I'm in when I do it. It's the same for our business, right? So if I'm putting out content because I'm checking the box and I'm doing the thing, but I feel like super annoyed about it and nobody's looking at this anyway, and I don't have anybody reaching out to me, like, well, cool, you're literally infusing that into whatever you're sharing. So it's important to really look at that and notice, like, it doesn't matter. Like, first of all, time is a made up thing anyway. So if you want to box yourself into like however many hours, well, fine, go ahead. But you don't need to, right? It's that why I believe mindset, again, is so important, because you can either convince yourself it's working or it's not. But either way, you're going to give yourself evidence of that. That's how it works. And then the other thing you said, when you said that you were ready, like you had this desire to do this YouTube thing, but you weren't sure when, right? And that's a testament. I would just celebrate that you trusted yourself long enough to know that it was something important to you, but you didn't rush it. It wasn't a should, right? You sort of allowed that to unfold naturally. And then you were excited to do it, right? And that's how it works. So sometimes when we're creatively in this space of like, I want to do this thing, but I'm not, we can judge ourselves. And that's something to be curious about, because there's no need for it. But the other part of it is recognizing when it really is an alignment, when it really is the time. And that requires a lot of self-trust and a lot of patience to know, like, I know it's going to happen, and it's not fear, right? There's a difference between like, I know it'll happen, but I'm really actually afraid and I don't actually really want to do it. That's a very different thing, right? It's like, I want to do this thing, but I'm waiting until I have that impulse to act on that. And that's a testament to your self-trust. So I think it's beautiful, and it's fun. And now you want to do it, right? So it's very different.
Yes. And I had to think about when you said about the whole fearing thing. I am starting a group program, and that was like, for the longest time, that was a fear. Like, oh, I want to do this, but oh, I fear it. And then the same thing, like I was like, or I kind of should, or there was all these mindset stuff, and it hasn't been in my head for I don't know, a year or something. And then like a while back, it kind of like came up for me again, and within a day I almost had the whole program figured out. Like the energy behind the whole feeling was so different than before. Like before it was like, oh, I should, or this must happen, or this is the natural thing, next thing. And now I'm just like really excited to get this out there, because it's more about the servicing. And that's also where we started. Like it's about the servicing of people and helping people. And so the whole energy and the whole feeling behind it is completely different. And I think that's also why now it just flowed out, instead of like, oh, I must do it. And then I was looking at a blank piece of paper, like, how the heck am I going to do this? It's like and then it's the whole energy part of it. So yeah, I think that's just everything comes back down to energy at some point.
Always and forever, all the live long day. That's awesome. But yeah, I think it's really important. I think that's something that's not talked about enough in the creative world, is the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and having the self-trust that you're going to get there, but also really holding fast to the idea that you get to do it your way. And it can be so easy to be seduced by all the shining objects and all the other ways everybody else is doing it. And this is how someone else down the street did it, so I should, virtual street, whatever. So I should do that too, right? But if we don't trust ourselves that we get to do it our own way, it will always feel like a should. Yes. And until that desire truly pulls us, it will be really difficult. It will feel like we are walking through mud, because we think we have to do it this way. We should do it this way. And ultimately, it's just siphoning our energy. And then we end up resenting our business and resenting our life. And sometimes it takes a significant wake-up call to find out that that's not the way you have to do it. And I would much prefer people not go down that road, right? You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer first. But most of us get to the point where we're burnt out, we're suffering, it's not working, there's all kind of self-doubt, all these things. But I would highly encourage people to not do that, because you don't have to do that either.
and it doesn't mean that you will sometimes feel out of your comfort zone. Let's get that clear, because I know both of us know that. Like sometimes you know that this is the right thing and you want to do it, the right energy is there, and you are still petrified to do it. But that's something different. That's more growing, and growing is out of your comfort zone. That's the whole thing. But it's a whole different kind of fear. And
I call that scare-sighted. Half scared, half excited. It's like, if I'm excited, but I'm also terrified, but I'm excited, then it's a yes, right? But if it's more of like, I literally can't bring myself to do it, then there's some other thoughts to look at there. Like, what am I believing that's not necessarily true? Or what am I telling myself that I have to do even though I don't want to do? Those are questions I would ask myself if I felt like, oh, this is the thing I have to do, or this is why I'm doing it this way and it's not working.
I like that. I would love to know from all the people that are watching this, what is the scare-sided thing that you are thinking about? Because I would love to know that, and I'm quite sure Keri would love to know as well.
Totally, I would love to know. Absolutely, that is so exciting.
Yes, I would love.
Also, I will say the last thing about that is usually it's a little inkling, a little whisper, and most of us want to turn that down real quick, because it challenges us, because it takes us out of our comfort zone, because it's not the natural thing, because it doesn't look like the next step. It feels like, I don't really, like, again, half scared, half excited. It's like, I don't know if I can do that, but I really want to do that.
Yes.
So yes. Tell us what it is.
Totally. Yes. And that's how this whole camper thing started. So
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, to me, an example of that would be the camper thing for you.
Yeah.
Because it was like really exciting and really fun. And like, you knew it could be great. And also there were so many logistics and so many things that you were like, but I have no idea.
I'm just editing my first vlog on the road, and the first, like, one of the first things out of my mouth on the first day is I'm very excited and I'm also very nervous.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Keri. I had so much fun talking to you. It's always fun talking
Thank
to you.
you so much. Oh my gosh, me too. It was so fun. I could talk to you for hours, so it was so great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So if you want to see more creative chats, just check it out over here. I have a whole playlist full of them. And I will see you over there.